Hi, I am Allie Camilletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about the leadership skill of belonging. Belonging is the feeling of security and support when there is a sense of acceptance, inclusion, and identity. So I'm going to share a little bit about my personal experience, and then I'm going to share a little bit about this great article from Harvard Business Review called "A Sense of Belonging Starts with Self-Acceptance." As I started to research this idea of belonging, because there's so much in it, right? We listened to Dr. Steve and his share on what it looked like for him and the work that he does. But when I went out and looked, it all started with self-acceptance. Because if we are in a situation and we don't feel like we belong, often that comes back to us and what that looks like. And I will say, last year, I started taking my daughter to school, and I had forgotten what it was like to be in these new social settings. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect this. And I had to really kind of evaluate myself with it of like, who was I going to be as a mother and a parent now in a school environment? Who did I want to be? And what it came down to is being okay with just being me. I didn't need to fit in. I didn't need to try to do certain things to feel a sense of belonging. It needed to be in me. And that's a lot of what this article talks about. So they talk about the role you play, right? And that's what I was looking at is like, what role did I play being a parent and a mother in a school environment and discovering your power? And that's what I did. I discovered my power. Who am I? Who do I want to be in this environment? I know who I am in my work environment. I know who I am in my friend environment. But this was different. Brought back a lot of like, ooh, I'm back in school. So they talk about every one of us has the power to accept and honor who we are at our core. This looks like owning our qualities, values, and choices regardless of how we think others will perceive us. This looks like showing up for and believing in ourselves first. I had a recent situation where I was talking with another parent and something came up about taking photos and sharing photos because I volunteer with part of one of the school's organizations. And I said, yeah, I didn't read all the texts. What's the short and sweet? What do you want me to do? Because I take pictures and I share them to the person that heads up the program. And she said, well, we just have to be careful about sharing pictures with everybody that volunteers. And instead, you can send them just to me directly. I'm like, oh, I get it. And she said, yeah, I need to check with the school. It's like a legal situation we have to be careful of. And I said, yeah, whatever. And she's like, no, it's like something that legally we have to pay attention to. I said, I get that. I said, I just don't live in a place of fear. And so I'll do what you tell me you want to do and I'll respect that, but I'm not fearful. And recently I was watching an AI video on sharing your child's stuff on social media. And I have an account that says Chella and Allie, and it's about our life together. And I share it. And I absolutely believe that some people judge it. And those people should not be on my social media because I will make them crazy. They do not want to see how much I share for sure. It's going to freak them out. But as I watched that, I thought, yeah, this is very fear-based. Your identity can be stolen. images can be replicated and all of these things. And I'm like, you know what? We all risk that as humans, but that's not who I choose to be in the life that I live. I'm going to go first with love and belief, and that's what's best in my heart, and that's how I operate. So when they talk about in this article, self-acceptance happens through the process of self-discovery and self-awareness. And that was my self-awareness. This is who I am. This is my value of love and what I put out there. It's a state we experience when we welcome, include, and take pride in all that we are and in all that we aren't yet. When we welcome every part of ourselves, the pressure to perform or suppress our true characters lifts. I wasn't trying to fit in that situation. I will respect and do what is said, and I'm not going to judge other people for what they choose to do. But I know who I am, is what it comes down to. And so they say we create more space to exist comfortably within and give more to our work, to our customers, and to our relationships in that space. And what does that look like when we really dig in to self-acceptance? It's only when we like ourselves and care for ourselves like we would a loved one that we begin to feel that we deserve to be visible and feel we belong. So what gets in our way of self-acceptance? So many things get in our way of self-acceptance. So many things. It goes back to our childhood, right? And I personally have done a lot of personal work. It's a journey that I will never stop and I will continue to be on probably my entire life because that's how I am. I like to learn and grow. But we need to learn our own biases, especially the ones we have against ourselves. That work isn't going to be easy and it's going to be very hard. It's exhausting. I remember when I was deep in therapy at one point, I said to myself, I'm like, I need to take a break because this work is hard and I know I'm growing, but it's uncomfortable. And it's okay to take a break sometimes and recognize when you need to take a break. So, the advice on how to take back power by rewriting your individual narratives and beliefs and developing the kind of thoughts and habits that will create change for the future starts by learning how to love yourself, right? I had part of an environment in my childhood that did not teach me how to love myself at all. Taught me the opposite. Taught me judgment, um, ridicule, a lot of things that I strive as a parent to not do now. Now, if you have at least one identity marker that comes from marginalized or underrepresented group, it isn't so much a case of if you have internalized sexism, racism, all of the different areas, right? But more a case of how it shows up and impacts your inner and outer worlds. The good news is it's possible to unlearn your biases. I was raised by very conservative grandparents a good part of my life with their influence. And I remember working in environments in San Francisco that it was definitely uncomfortable. And it pushed me. And it pushed me to see people for who they were and not judge. And I was grateful that I had that in my 20s. So based on the experience of this writer who is a licensed therapist and executive coach, I'll leave it in the show notes, but this is a great article. She talks about a couple tips. One is breathe. Just breathe. So keep yourself grounded and don't get so in your head, right? Just connecting with your breath and your body. It's important when confronting internalized prejudices and beginning a process of self-discovery. Do a life audit. When I was at the Vacation Rental Women's Summit in December and I presented on self-care, I talked about what I went through watching the movie Barbie. And I will say I had to watch it twice because the first time, my jaw dropped. And I was just like, oh, whoa. Is this all subconscious programming that has happened in my life? it really hit me hard. And so that's kind of the life audit. And I'm not proud necessarily of what I learned about myself, but I am accepting of what I learned about myself. And I learned that, you know what? I made some interesting choices in my life. And I had to kind of go back and be like, was that influenced by this situation that happened to me? Or was it influenced by the fact that I grew up with Barbies? Oh, I was playing with them until I was like 12. And it was something that was a big part of my world. And it was always about my career. It was never about falling in love and getting married and having children. That wasn't part of what I thought about. And who does at that age? But some kids do. They're all about getting married and everything that's going to happen. So really just kind of paying attention to what's happened in your life and kind of reprogramming that. But make sure that the areas of your life are abundant, energizing, and affirming, not draining. I really pay attention to who I spend my time with and ensure that it isn't draining and that I do feel joy and fulfilled in my friendships that I have in my relationships. So educate yourself about yourself, learn, dissect, and that's how we kind of unravel maybe some things that we want to change. The other thing is just being kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. I talk to people that they're like, well, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. And I'm like, oh, I understand. That little voice in your head that says you need to do all the things makes me think of social media, right? I have a friend that she's like, oh, I should be posting on LinkedIn. I know I should. Allie, you do a good job of posting. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what I also don't do? I don't always interact. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm lucky to get my posts out and not always do I have time to interact. And I know that's what it's about, but I give myself grace. I'm raising a daughter the best I can to be the best human she can be. I have my own business and I take care of a house. It's a lot for one person. And so I give myself grace and don't judge myself. They say belonging is an archetypical experience that all humans seek, whoever they are. It transcends geographies, generations, genotypes. When we recognize that we're not alone in our desire to belong, then we can live with greater empathy. That's having empathy for ourselves. It's having empathy for other people. And it is what that spirit of empathy for ourselves that we can gently and kindly dismantle any internalized prejudices and open up into greater levels of self-acceptance. So I leave with you this quote. Because your true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. By Brene Brown. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Allie Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.